on us. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
The headline today is just stunning. Ukraine regains 90% ground near Kupiansk. This is December 18th, 2025.
I'm Alex. Join you with Area in the latest podcast by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdowns of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we're going to cover the stunning recent success of Ukrainian forces that has flipped the script in a crucial eastern city, showing remarkable resilience just as diplomatic talks intensify.
It really has, and it creates this incredible information paradox we have to unpack.
A paradox? How so?
Well, you have the Ukrainian commander-in-chief, Oleksandr Syrskyi, confirming they control nearly 90% of this vital city. I mean, Kupiansk is a major logistical hub.
Right.
But at the very same time, you've got Russian Defense Minister Belousov still claiming falsely that the city's been seized and that Ukrainian defenses are just collapsing.
So our mission for this deep dive is to cut right through that fog of war. We are unpacking recent operational reports, strategic assessments from military analysts, and some key diplomatic briefings.
We're going to show you exactly how Ukraine achieved this stunning success and what it means for the peace talks that are happening right now.
Let's start with the battle itself. The breakthrough is massive. As of December 17th, Ukrainian forces control almost 90% of Kupiansk. And, this wasn't some overnight miracle.
No, not at all. This is the result of a really concentrated multi-week counteroffensive that started way back in September, really pushing back against that renewed Russian pressure.
So what made this counteroffensive different? What were the tactics?
This is what's so fascinating. Analysts are already calling it the Syrskyi Doctrine. It's all about specialized tactics. He authorized the creation of these things called search strike groups, or SSGs.
Search strike groups, so like small, fast-moving commando units.
Pretty much. Think of them as high-mobility teams designed specifically to operate in this kind of dense, difficult, urban terrain. They were mainly run by the 2nd Kharkiv Corps.
And how did they actually work on the ground?
It was a multi-domain approach.
Yeah.
So first, extensive reconnaissance. We're talking constant use of thermal UAVs, drones, and crucial signals intelligence.
To find the hidden Russian units.
Exactly. To locate, isolate, and then neutralize these small Russian units that had infiltrated the northwestern outskirts of the city. Once they were found, the SSGs would move in with these really rapid isolation maneuvers.
And it worked.
It worked incredibly well. They managed to encircle what was left of the Russian garrison, maybe only 200 to 600 personnel, and just completely cleared that whole area.
And I read something about a pipeline. This seems like a stroke of genius.
Oh, this is the kill shot, tactically speaking. The destruction of the Russian pipeline infiltration route, that was their main logistical lifeline.
So they weren't just fighting the soldiers, they were fighting their ability to get supplies.
Precisely. Cutting that pipeline completely severed their ground lines of communication, their GLOCs. It forced the remaining Russian troops to rely on these big, heavy cargo drones just for basic survival.
Just for food and ammo.
Yeah, just for food, ammunition, water. I mean, when you degrade an enemy's logistics that badly, attrition does most of the work for you.
And the gains weren't random. There was a clear strategy to secure the city's perimeter.
Absolutely. The liberation of Kharkiv and Retakes, just north of the city, was key. That allowed Ukrainian forces to break through to the Oskol River and cut those GLOCs for good.
And there was also that high ground, the Uvaleny Microraion.
Yes, capturing that cemented Ukrainian fire control over the entire southern urban sprawl. It made it impossible for any remaining Russian positions to hold out.
It's just wild to contrast this reality with what Russia was saying just a month ago.
The information warfare side of this is stark. In November, Russian leaders were literally decorating the commander of the Zapad group of forces, boasting that Kupiansk was fully captured.
And that kind of propaganda can backfire.
It did, massively. But the most powerful countermove came from President Zelenskyy. On December 12th, he physically visited the southwest outskirts of the city.
Wow.
Yeah. That single image, the head of state standing next to the city sign, was undeniable proof of control for all of Ukraine's Western partners. It completely dismantled the Russian narrative.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Talk about the strategic value here. Kupiansk isn't just a dot on the map. Its location is everything.
It's a crucial node. The reason is the railroad junction, Kupiansk-Vizlovye. That junction is the main artery for moving heavy equipment and fuel south towards what Ukraine calls its fortress belt.
The big defensive cities like Sloviansk and Kramatorsk.
Exactly. So Ukraine maintaining fire control over that rail hub is a massive factor. It makes any deep Russian advance much, much harder to sustain.
And the Oskol River acts as a natural barrier here, too. Russia had some bridgeheads west of the river, but supplying them must be a nightmare for them now.
A total nightmare. And you can actually see Russia admitting its failure through its own actions. Look at their recent infrastructure targeting.
What do you mean?
Well, on December 7th, Russian forces deliberately targeted the Pecheny Dam and a key bridge near Stary Saltiv.
Why on earth would they destroy infrastructure they would need for their own advance? Unless
they've given up on advancing, that's what analysts are saying. A successful attacker would protect that infrastructure.
Right.
By destroying it, Russia is basically admitting tactical failure. They're now just trying to create an impassable no man's land. They're saying, if we can't have it, you can't use it as a launch pad either.
So a purely defensive, almost spiteful move.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can't ignore the pressure they're still applying elsewhere, right? Northeast of Kharkiv.
That's right. There are mandatory evacuations happening in the Veliki Burluk community because of Russian advances near places like Ambarn and Odradny.
What's the goal there?
It's a classic diversion. That pressure is designed to disrupt Ukrainian logistics between Veliki Burluk and the northern flank of Kupiansk. It forces Ukraine to commit resources there, resources that could otherwise be sent to the main front down south.
Which brings us to Pokrovsk. Commander Zelenskyy himself said this remains one of the most difficult situations on the entire front.
And the contrast between the success at Kupiansk and the fight at Pokrovsk it's just night and day. It really defines the whole Eastern Front right now.
Why is it so much harder there?
It's the sheer numbers. Russia has concentrated massive formations there. We're talking estimates of around 170,000 troops just on that one axis.
170,000.
Yeah. And Ukrainian forces are facing insane infantry ratios, sometimes up to 1 to 10 in some local fights.
But Russia's advances all year have been incredibly slow. They've gained less than 1% of Ukraine's territory. Couldn't we say the same thing might happen at Pokrovsk? A slow, grinding fight.
You could, and that's a fair point based on the data, but Pokrovsk is strategically different. The assessment from November was pretty grim. The probability of Russia capturing the entire city by August 2026 is still high, around 70%.
And the fall of Pokrovsk would be much worse than losing Kupiansk.
Far more profound, yes. It would create a genuine logistics catastrophe for Ukraine's entire defense in Donetsk. Russia sees it as the key to finally punching through that fortress belt.
And this all just comes down to attrition to manpower.
It does, and the math here suggests a real structural problem for Russia, even with 710,000 troops on the front.
What do the numbers say?
Their advances in 2025 have been tiny, between, say, 4,700 and 6,000 square kilometers. And the reason for that slow pace is unsustainable losses.
How bad?
Russian casualties are averaging about 34,600 per month. Now, Moscow claims they're recruiting around 32,800 contract soldiers a month.
So the casualty rate is actually higher than their recruitment rate.
It's outpacing it. That points to deep systemic manpower problems. It makes sustained, high-intensity offensives almost impossible for them. They're struggling just to replace their losses.
In this battlefield reality, Ukrainian resilience and Russia's manpower crisis is what's driving this intense diplomatic action we're seeing.
Without a doubt. But you have to start with the Russian position, which hasn't changed. Putin reiterated on December 17th that Russia will undoubtedly achieve its maximalist goals.
Which are?
The same as day one, basically. Full cession of all 5 legally annexed oblasts and the complete removal of the current Ukrainian government through demilitarization and denazification.
So a complete non-starter for any real negotiation.
It guarantees the war continues. They've even rejected practical things like a demilitarized zone unless their own Rosgvardia units, which have military capabilities, are deployed there.
Which defeats the entire purpose of a buffer zone.
Completely. It just shows they have no interest in anything other than total control.
And that's why the Western response, fueled by successes like Kupiansk, is so important right now. We're seeing some huge moves.
Huge. On December 15th, the EU Council confirmed that European countries and the U.S. will provide robust security guarantees to Ukraine. This is a monumental step.
What does robust actually mean here?
It means a European-led multinational military force and, crucially, a legally binding commitment to military and economic action if Russia ever reinvades. It's designed to prevent Russia from just pausing to rearm.
And we saw the U.S. Congress step up as well.
That's right. The Senate just passed a $901 billion defense policy bill. And inside that, military aid for Ukraine is allocated all the way through 2027.
That long-term certainty is huge for Kyiv's planning.
It's a game changer. And then there's the financial weapon, the frozen assets.
This might be the biggest move of all.
I think it is. On December 12th, the EU agreed to indefinitely freeze $247 billion in Russian assets. This isn't just a temporary sanction anymore.
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely. And that freeze provides the legal backbone for a massive reparations loan to Ukraine, up to $194 billion for reconstruction. It's a historic move to hold an aggressor financially responsible.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. What's the single most important takeaway for someone listening to this?
The crucial takeaway is that tactical battlefield success directly translates into strategic diplomatic leverage. The victory in Kupiansk, achieved with these innovative new tactics, gives Ukraine real, tangible proof that they can win.
And that proof dismantles the Russian narrative that Ukraine's collapse is inevitable.
Exactly. It weakens Russia's hand at any negotiating table, and, maybe more importantly, it gives Western partners the confidence to make these huge long-term commitments.
Because they can see their support is actually making a difference.
And that long-term commitment is the most critical factor. Russia's public statements prove they plan to attack again if they get the chance. So these robust, legally binding security guarantees are absolutely essential for any future peace to last.
A powerful summary. And finally, a provocative thought for you to consider. Given that the battle for Kupiansk has become a laboratory for 21st century urban drone warfare, how quickly will the tactical innovations employed by Ukraine's search strike groups become the standard operating procedure for every major military force worldwide? You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.